2 weeks down, 15 left to reach fantasy glory. We're talking about our biggest week 2 takeaways, including whether the Packers wide receiver room is going to be golden. Let's get it. What's up, fantasy people? You are back with the True North Fantasy Pod, here to inform, empower, and entertain you towards making sound fantasy decisions. I am Trav, hosting and West Coastin'. Of course, I am joined by the Italian Dream, Frank Amaranti. Frank, we got week 2 in the books. A lot of times it feels surreal as we see these weeks tick by. You know, it's week 2, it's week 6, it's week 8, it's week 14. It's kind of surreal to say that we already have 2 weeks in the books, so we have to cherish it because it goes by fast. But we are buzzing after week 2, Frank. I don't know about you, but I had a great week. How are you feeling?
Feeling great. Yeah, the season goes by so fast. That's why you have to enjoy it. Enough of this, this game's at 10. Now I got to go to bed late. No, enjoy it. Football is back. 10, I'm saying Eastern time. You're lucky. You're on the West Coast.
I'm a West Coaster, baby.
enjoy it while it lasts because the season flies. Biggest takeaway from after week 2 is just it's a great opportunity to try to explore the trade market. Poke at that league mate of yours who is impatient with their rookies. It's never been a better time to try to buy low on especially rookie running backs, or like we're going to get into one of the receivers, just because they've really started off slow. They were pretty, relatively expensive, especially the running backs for rookies. So you may be able to exploit one of your disgruntled league mates.
Yeah, I think that's probably my biggest takeaway from week 2, Frank, is that there are so many people panicking. And I am admittedly somebody who gets their heartstrings involved in their fantasy teams at times and maybe holds on a little bit too long. But I think the panic and the reactionary kind of dismissing all of our evaluations that we spent hours and hours on just because of like 2 weeks, which is 1/9 of the season, is just a little bit short-sighted for me. So I'm somebody who likes to hold on to these guys and wait potentially as well. And one of those guys, Frank, as we get into our takeaways that a lot of people are maybe panicking a little bit on is Matthew Golden in Green Bay. Now, we saw another tough one this past week in week 2. He missed those 2 deep shots. I think those were Jordan Love misses, not Matthew Golden misses, obviously. But what that did was kind of gave us a taste of what could be with Matthew Golden. Now, we haven't seen that come to fruition. Those were his only 2 targets of the game, and neither was deemed catchable. But we got that taste of what upside could be with Matthew Golden, but seeing that he's still like 3rd in the pecking order in a game where Jaden Reed went down to injury, is that something that could make you think about dropping a guy like Matthew Golden, Frank? Or would you be kind of holding on because of some of that preseason eval that we had?
I'm holding on Matthew Golden, just a few reasons. One, we can attribute the slow start to just a rookie getting his feet wet in the league. A lot of these teams are just making these rookies earn it or slowly easing them in. You see it everywhere. The Texans with Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, it's just everywhere. But for Golden, Jaden Reed's out. He's injured. Wide open opportunity in that receiver room. I know Christian Watson will eventually return, but even when he does, that might take time for Christian Watson to get back on track. You look at Jordan Love, he looks fully healthy. He looks great. They're passing it a little bit more, the Packers are. And if you remember one of my early episodes, I was really saying the Packers are going to pass it a little more this year because they went extremely run heavy due to Jordan Love playing through injury. But anyway, yeah, Jordan Love looks great. Thirdly, you look at the 2 game scripts for the Packers, both pretty much blowouts. I know the Commanders game ended up, an 8-point deficit, but that game was never in reach. The Commanders made no adjustments, couldn't get anything going on offense. Point is, Packers didn't really need to air it out. They could take their foot off the gas. They could just run the ball. That's not going to happen all year. Now, I know the Packers defense is elite. The Packers look like Super Bowl contenders. But there's going to be some games where it's tied close, more passing, more opportunity for Golden. He's just the type of player right now that you don't have to really worry about starting because obviously he hasn't shown it yet. But he has the upside to eventually be an every week, receiver 3 in your lineup. And that's exactly the type of bench stash I like to make. I know there's Wan'Dale Robinson, Troy Franklin, who this past week both had good weeks and they're, decent players. It's just that for me, I think that it just coming off their spike week, Franklin and Wandale, and it's not like they'll be that trustworthy where you can really know when to start them. So if you're considering dropping Golden for one of the, Wandale or Franklin, for me, that's just chasing points. And I'd rather stick with the first round rookie who hasn't gotten it going yet.
Yeah, no, that's well said because he does present huge upside if he is getting targets. I might disagree on Troy Franklin a little bit just because I'm getting a bit steamy on him. I was a big fan of him pre-draft, of course. Um, but yeah, to your point, like Wandale, those types of guys that like Wandale got 4 deep targets this past week, and he will probably never get that many in a game again in a shootout against the Cowboys. Yeah, those kind of guys who have those spikes are the perfect guys to sell for a guy like Golden because looking at that Jaden Reed injury, obviously in week 2, he was behind Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Dobbs, but Golden could make a little bit of hay in that role. He could get Matt LaFleur looking at him a little bit more as far as scheming some things up for him as opposed to just getting those deep targets. So I think things could be better for Matthew Golden. I will say I'm probably only giving him a couple more weeks. If he has a couple more stinkers with the return of Christian Watson, with the imminent return of Jaden Reed, depending on his prognosis, I think things could be a little bit tougher for Golden if he's not established by that point. But yeah, the upside, this is like our listeners went through the process with us throughout the offseason here, right, Frank? We were off of Matthew Golden because of a lot of the college efficiency and lack of volume and stuff like that. Then we looked at the process and looking at the upside he could present versus the other wide receivers on this team, the only time they've spent a first round draft pick, yada, yada, yada. And that's how we were maybe getting some shares of Golden. And so this is where I'm not backing off of my change in stance when I adjusted for new information, right? I'm not, this isn't new. New information that we have with his first 2 weeks is not big enough for me to dismiss all of that previous information that I logged in the offseason. So well said on Franklin, or on, sorry, I got Franklin on the brain. Well said on Golden. I think the biggest takeaway for the Packers is that Tucker Kraft is like the only tight end or only pass catching weapon here that you can rely on. He is looking like he's going to be a top 5 tight end this year, and I will have him ranked as such this week. So good signs for Tucker Kraft. Keep that train rolling, baby. We both have been pretty heavy into the Kraft, and it's looking smooth like peanut butter now.
Yeah, he's an elite. He's elite at getting yards after the catch. Kraft. We've been hyping him all off season. Love to see it. Didn't get him in my home leagues because I went early tight end, but in best ball, I have a lot of Kraft. Love it.
Nice. We're going to stay in that division, and we're going to look at the Detroit Lions, who got way back on track this week in a dog walk over the Chicago Bears, Frank. The running back room got super on track. We're super excited about David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs now after a bit of a speed bump in week 1. But I want to zero in on Jameson Williams, Frank, because he had an awesome game, 108 yards and a touchdown. We see that that's on 2 receptions, and it's hard to see him repeating that week over week over week. He did have 4 targets, and he is a guy that can do this in any given week. But in a game where we saw such hyper efficiency from Jared Goff, which has previously been his MO, but I think might not be as consistent this year, I might be selling a little bit high off of this game that JMO had and trying to find maybe a bit more of a consistent floor that has similar upside to what Jameson can give. Because it's not like he's given us 30-point games just yet. So if I can find a guy that can give me those 20 plus games, but maybe has like a floor of 12 to 13 points, I might do that for a guy like JMO. Where are you sitting on that one, Frank?
For me, I'm going to go against you here. I'd hold Jameson Williams. Now, before coming into the season, in draft season, I wasn't in on JMO in the 4th round. I thought that was too high. But then again, that was mostly in best ball where you don't have to worry about starting Jameson Williams. So really in like conventional redraft, he was going like 5th round sometimes. And I think when you were to have taken JMO, you have to build your team accordingly and recognizing that, hey, there's going to be some duds in this. There's going to be. I'm drafting JMO for these massive games that he can have. Now I know he hasn't had those 20 plus games, but like as often as you would think. But his skill set of his game breaking speed and an efficient offense, I mean, they're gonna come. This is how he plays. And he's just someone you want to always have in your lineup because that spike week for JMO could come against anyone, any defense. So you just have to live with it, basically. So I'd be holding on JMO. I have him in one spot. Like I said, I wasn't in on him coming into the season, but I did get him in a home league where he fell really late, and he's my receiver 4 when you start 2 flexes in that league. And I'm gonna just fire him up every week just because in my situation I don't have to rely on JMO with that team. He's just my hammer that I know that he can just really swing a matchup on any given week. So to sum it up, game breaking speed, efficient offense. People will see that he only got 2 catches. They would see Amon-Ra St. Brown. But look, like Amon-Ra had 3 touchdowns. That could have easily been a JMO type of week where he got 2 instead of 1. So just such a high weekly ceiling. And I don't think the trade value is there yet because it's not like I wouldn't want to trade him. It's not like his value increased since the season started. So I wouldn't be moving off after this game. Just hold.
Got a couple for you here, Frank. Rest of the season, Jameson Williams or Michael Pittman Jr.?
Oh, I'm going to go Jameson Williams just because despite the Colts' really early season dominance, I don't think their offense is going to be this good all year. I think part of that had to do with, facing the Dolphins. I know the Broncos defense is great, but the Colts probably, if by the end of the year, we're going to look at them and see their splits between home and road games going to be a lot different. Like when the Colts are at home, they're probably going to be a lot more high scoring. They played both their games at home so far. Pittman is back, like rock solid, high floor type, but I'd rather have that JMO type of game breaking upside, week breaking upside. So I'd go with him.
JMO or George Pickens rest of season?
Oh, that's a great one because they have a similar style of production, deep threats. But coming into the season, George Pickens was one of my favorite targets. I was really prioritizing him, and I ranked him ahead of JMO, and I have way more Pickens shares. So I'm not backing off that after the first 2 weeks. It's definitely George Pickens for me just because Cowboys, I think,
Yeah.
will be much more pass heavy.
Yeah. Last one. And this one's going to be like pulling on the heartstrings because I think this guy is a buy low and you might want to talk about him. So feel free to parlay this either or into our conversation about this other player, Jameson Williams or Chris Olave rest of season.
Oh, that's a great one. So you talked
A
about how
lot of
Chris
people think this
Olave.
is easy. A lot of people think this is an easy smash JMO, but I'm not sure if I'm there, Frank.
So I'm going to start it off by saying I tweeted out today Chris Olave is an amazing buy low. Look at his usage. Week 1, 40.6% target share, 44.7% air yard share. Week 2, that was 37.7% target share and over 50% air yard share. That's like heavy, heavy usage. Saints are playing really fast. Kellen Moore is getting Chris Olave more looks, layup looks like underneath in the slot. I think Olave is going to have a big year, but I still wouldn't put him ahead of JMO just because Jameson Williams is in such a much better offense, much better situation. Obviously, Olave has his injury concerns, so I wouldn't make that move. I'd still rank JMO ahead. But Olave was a player that I was really targeting in draft season. He went like 7th round, so he was a lot cheaper. So I think you don't have to give up JMO to get Olave yet
Right.
because the production hasn't been there for Olave yet in terms of receiving yards and touchdowns and catches. But the underlying and predictive usage metrics look great. So I'd be looking to try to trade for Chris Olave.
Nice. I was kind of hoping I might have stumped you with that one, but you were, as always, ready for it, Frank. I think the way I go with those guys is probably Pickens, Pittman, JMO, Olave is probably how I would go rest of season. I'm really, really pumped about the Michael Pittman Jr. resurgence, but totally understand that floor could fall out with the amount of weapons that they got over there in Indianapolis. You want to talk about Chris Olave, Frank? Like you mentioned your tweet today. Obviously, the situation is a stinker in New Orleans with the Saints, but that kind of volume is absolute buy low territory. And I can't recall who tweeted it out, but one of the big things that I use as far as finding some of these buy low players is expected fantasy points. And I get that through the fantasy points data suite. And a way that you can find these buy lows is the guys who are getting a lot of expected fantasy points, but for whatever reason have not lived up. Now you got to look at why they're not living up to it, because sometimes it could be a talent or like a skill set reason. But a lot of times it's, especially for Chris Olave, the situation around him is not allowing him to maybe get the most of the targets that he's getting. And so he is somebody who's underperforming his expected fantasy points, but I think he is top 10 among wide receivers as far as expected fantasy points. So the opportunity has been there. And if he starts to capitalize a little bit more, then there's going to be much more upside on the cost that you might have to go buy him for right now, for sure, Frank.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, you love those volume stats with his target share and air yard share. Great shout and looking at expected fantasy points. With one thing to note is that probably Olave will underperform the expected fantasy points all year just because of quarterback play.
Yeah.
But he's probably going to produce at a higher level than he is now. And you have to love that they're playing fast paced. I mean, Rattler obviously is probably the worst starting quarterback in the NFL, but he hasn't been that bad.
He's not been necessarily the reason they lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's
so
holding
that's
them
a
up.
good sign. So definitely we'll be looking to buy low on Olave. Thinking of someone who you can trade for him.
Hmm.
That I mean, you could go well, that's not really buying low because I was gonna say Debo Samuel, but I'd rather have Olave rest of season than Debo, even though Debo's outperformed
You
Olave.
even like trade the young hotness of a Ricky Pearsall for him?
Uh,
Mm,
that one's crazy because I was fading Pearsall like crazy, and then after week 1 he looked good, and then I'm like, whoa, that looks wrong, and now I don't know if it looks wrong anymore.
yeah,
Uh,
it's interesting. Then Juwan Jennings looked good this past week as well. It's interesting.
you probably don't even need to give up that to get Olave because it's like Pearsall's got that buzz. He's young.
Or
Olave's
Keyshawn Butte plus like a
that I would
a
do in a
backup
second.
running back.
I would
Keyshawn
do like
Butte and
Franklin for
yeah,
Olave, no
Franklin. Oh
problem.
yeah, I don't think you're getting Olave for
No,
Franklin
the
yet
thing is,
though.
they won't. Most leagues they won't do that. Yeah,
But
it's
like
tough.
Quentin Johnston, off of his early season production that he's had already, somebody might be
Definitely.
buying that hotness for a guy like Olave. Yeah, there's some names out there too. So throw some feelers because you want upside for cheap, and Chris Olave is upside for cheap versus what he can do. Okay, so Frank, this is one of my boos, and I'm just getting really excited for him. So I had to bring him up on the show. Quinshon Judkins bell cow season might be upon us, Frank. It might be upon us. It wasn't fully upon us in week 2 because he didn't get like the full snap share. Jerome Ford, surprisingly, actually got almost 50% of the snaps, with Quinshon and Dylan Sampson kind of sharing the other 50%. Quinshon did out touch Sampson 13-7 in this one, though, Frank. Sampson did get a garbage time receiving touchdown from Dylan Gabriel, who went in garbage time, not Shadur Sanders, which was notable. Quinshon had over 6 yards per carry in this game. He only had 10 carries. But on those 10 carries, he forced 5 missed tackles, and his 0.5 missed tackles forced per attempt is the most in the NFL for running backs who have 10 plus carries. And so a little cheeky on that one, considering the threshold is only 10 carries and the sample size is only 2 games. But I am going to be throwing out as much Quinshon Judkins propaganda as I can this season. And it just gets to start a little bit earlier than I might have thought it did.
Yeah, wow. Credit to you. You've been all over him all offseason, Quinshon Judkins. I didn't think he'd have 10 carries in his first game back. Judkins missed so much time in camp. I thought he'd be eased in and play sparingly, but he looked really good against obviously a good Ravens defense. He, like throughout that week 1, that was just a shootout. It was still a good defense. So Judkins is the one you want in this backfield. I was surprised Sampson played less than he did in week 1. That's a little concerning for him. But yeah, damn, if you got Judkins late, you got to be happy right now.
Yeah, and I think there's only room to grow for Judkins. Like the team only had 3 red zone snaps this past week. He didn't get any. And I think just as they see Judkins and Sampson come along, it's going to be the Judkins and Sampson show. And I think Jerome Ford starts to get pushed by the wayside. But I do think that Jerome Ford is more of a threat to Sampson than he is to Judkins, because Ford got 6 targets this past week and had a lot of third down play. And I think that's the role that we hope for Sampson to have alongside of Judkins. So I think eventually Judkins is going to be safe. So far, we're monitoring the forward role for Sampson, but we think Sampson will prevail. And that's kind of where we're sitting right now. Like, I'm not necessarily saying Judkins is like a top 12 running back for me, but he's probably going to be a top 24 running back for me week to week. Maybe not this week. It's a little bit early. I'll have to take a look into it, and I can't remember who they play just yet.
They got the
But
Packers, yeah.
right, which is an incredible defense. So I'm probably not going to be that steamy on Quinshon because I think Flacco will have to pass. But yeah, I'm rest of the season is looking great for Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah, definitely a promising debut.
You got any big takeaways you wanted to throw in here, Frank? I've been kind of listing off a whole bunch. Lots of fun stuff that I could keep rolling if you'd like, though.
Yeah, we could jump in. Sticking with the theme of rookie running backs, I was saying how, it's a good time to buy low. So we could start, Ashton Genty will be harder to buy low on just because whoever took him in the first or early second rounder. It's notoriously difficult to get them to your league mate to trade one of their top picks. They're not ready to accept like a reduced value on them. So I mean, if you can, great. That's my favorite one of the rookie running backs, obviously, but unlikely you could trade for them. But then when you go into like Omari and Hampton, you may be able to get Omari and Hampton at a discount. He's been inefficient. I'd be looking to trade for Hampton. I was fading him all off season because I still thought Najee Harris would play a bit, and he still might, but Hampton's been on the field a lot more than Harris. That could be Harris being eased back. Could maybe not. But, Hampton had those 3 goal line carries. He was stuffed. Could have converted that. Then his day looks a lot better. Justin Herbert looks like an MVP candidate. So there's going to be games. I mean, they're going so extremely pass heavy, but that doesn't mean there won't be opportunities, especially at least it'll be a high scoring offense for Hampton to find the end zone. So you might be able to get a discount on him. The problem is you got to think of what you're going to give up. Maybe you try to. I think the easiest way to do it is to maybe trade a running back who's doing better than Hampton and get your league mate to throw in a little sweetener.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can even try to sell high on Travis Etienne, but then he might just be a stud all year. So that's the risk you're taking. But definitely want to look at Hampton. I want to look at Trevion Henderson as a buy low as well. I know Henderson was barely used in week 2, struggling in pass protection. But, we've seen Ramondre Stevenson have these kind of games in the past. Look at week 1 against the Bengals last year. Ran all over them. Like, Stevenson is a decent back. He has his moments. But if the Patriots are going to contend for a playoff spot, they need to get their most explosive player involved. I think eventually he will. And probably because at least Hampton's on the field quite a bit, whereas Henderson has not been, you probably could get Henderson cheaper. And that'd be someone, I'd be looking to trade for sure. Then you have RJ Harvey, similar situation to Henderson. RJ Harvey looks explosive, playing sparingly, but he's someone you could get at a discount as well. So really to rank them in the most likely to be able to trade for them, it'd be probably Harvey most likely available, then Henderson, then Hampton. But I'd be looking at all 3 because it's quite early in the season and the talent is there. So just goes to show you might be off someone coming into the draft, but now off 2 bad weeks like me with Hampton, I'm going to try to trade for him. But yeah, public sentiment on these rookie running backs have never been lower. Everyone's frustrated. You got to wait a week after they just put up 3. Everyone loves fantasy football. Most people who play, they're looking at their team. They're seeing 0-2. They're seeing back-to-back single-digit games. They're getting restless. So it's time to capitalize.
Yeah, 100%. A couple of guys that I would look and that I would trade for any of those 3: James Conner, Javonte Williams, who's performed really, really well in the first couple of games. Those are both guys who have injury histories. So if you could get it off of those guys for one of these rookies who is going to be ascending towards the back half of the season, I kind of like that move too, Frank.
I
So
want
well
to
said.
add one thing because it segues nicely. James Conner, not that great so far.
So far, yeah.
11 carries, 34 yards, averaging 3.1 yards per carry against the Panthers. So he's had 2 great matchups, Saints and Panthers, and he's failed to eclipse 40 yards rushing, James Conner. we're starting to see Trey Benson play much more than he did last year. And Benson
Oh yeah.
looks pretty good. First game, 69 rushing yards, 52-yard run. Last game, he had 6 targets. Yeah, like it. You probably could do Javante for him. In some leagues, and some people are just going to be like, no, I like the stud rookie.
Yeah.
But Connor,
Connor
you
would be a
probably
tough
can't
one.
trade because he's off to. It's not been a good start for James Conner in 2 great matchups.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. You kind of hope for that bounce back game where he has one of those big weeks for him, but interesting times in the desert. Another running back that we were both big fans of coming into the season, and I've got in the notes, he will prevail. And that is one Kenneth Walker, Frank. He had the bounce back in week 2, 13 touches for 105 yards compared to his arch nemesis, Zach Charbonnet's. What did he have? Like 10 yards or
15 for
18?
10.
Yeah, 13 for 10, 15 for 10. So he had 10 yards on 15. It's funny, I had in my notes, I just forgot to put how many yards. Charbonnet's blank yards on 15 carries. So yeah, it wasn't good for Charbonnet. He seems like a little bit of maybe a square peg that they're trying to put into a round hole here with them trying to, over 2 weeks, continue to use him while he's been inefficient. I think that starts to kind of lean in the favor of Kenneth Walker as we roll on. I just think, how could you, after seeing how much more explosive and efficient he was in week 2, not continue to give him more work? Like, look at what he's like on the season right now. He only has 37.7% of the snaps compared to Charbonnet's 56.1. But talk about expected fantasy points, Frank. Kenneth Walker is outperforming his fantasy points over those 2 games by 6.2. And Charbonnet is underperforming his fantasy points by 6.3. And both of them have been expected for 18 points flat. So Charbonnet's just over 11 and Kenneth Walker's over 24. And so he's just so much more efficient. And I think, it's probably going to be, you probably can't really buy low on Kenneth Walker right now after what he just did this season. I think it's more so bag holders can hold firm and be confident that he's going to keep this production up, and he can do it like we saw, even if he is getting lesser carries, which I don't think is going to happen throughout the season. So I'm getting really stoked on it because that last week was scary for Kenneth Walker. That was a really scary little week that we saw with the Charbonnet involvement, but we're breathing easy now, Frank.
Yeah, so hopefully some of the listeners were able to buy low on Kenneth Walker after week 1 because that was the perfect time. Like you said, everyone was scared, panicking, worried, and Walker looks great. But with that said, I do think Walker will have most of the workload, but I don't think Charbonnet will have as few as last year. Whereas where Walker was healthy, Charbonnet was barely used. I think they
Mm-hmm.
will use Charbonnet much more than that, but maybe like 60-40 type of deal. But as the season progresses, but I just think this running game will eventually really start to click. Clint Kubiak, I like him as a coordinator. You look at the matchups, I mean, they played the 49ers. Now, Robert Saleh is the defensive coordinator again. Their defense could be tough once more after, a little bit of regression last year. And then week 2, I mean, the Steelers struggled against the Jets, but they're still the Steelers. Traditionally, they could be tough to run on, and maybe Walker being the one who could make more things happen and be more elusive, whereas Charbonnet gets what's blocked. It was just a better fit for Walker to go to work and to produce. This week, home against the Saints, 7.5-point favorites, sets up as a great game script for the Seahawks, where they're likely to be playing with the lead. Probably see a nice game for both of these running backs. Now, after week 2, with Charbonnet having the bad game, I'd be trying to trade for him because whenever Walker's missed time, and he's missed time often, he always seems to be banged up. Charbonnet is produced. So despite Charbonnet's inefficiency, I'd still look to trade for him. With that said, if you took Walker, pat yourself out the back if you didn't panic, and if you held, which you should have held, like you should be confident in him as top 15 type of high end RB2.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely be in that territory as well. Not sure if I'd be buying low on Charbonnet, but probably the highest end handcuff in the NFL if he is just a handcuff, if he doesn't have standalone. So there is good process in that as well, Frank. Frank, I only have one more, and it's a little bit of a suck it to the haters. So I wanted to invite you to get in any more of your takeaways here, because mine's going to be kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to yours. Okay, I'll have a couple takeaways here. We're gonna start with one being, the Eagles' lethargic and vanilla passing game.
It's
With
terrible.
that said, I'm not gonna go and sell low on AJ Brown or Devonta Smith. They have too much of a track record, especially Brown, for them to produce this way. Just hold the fort. Although, this game against the Rams, I think will be really close, and I think the Rams could easily win. I'm gonna probably take the Rams. It's probably going to be
Agreed.
a game where the Eagles pass a little more. It's not going to be like the first 2 weeks because against the Chiefs, I mean, the Chiefs' offense riddled with they need their receivers back, and the Cowboys, I mean, their offense is good, but it's just that that was the kind of game where you know the Eagles defense just was able to really slow down Dak. Like he didn't average, he couldn't get really many big plays going, and then that delay screwed up that game. That game
Hmm.
could have been really high scoring, and then it wasn't.
Hmm.
Anyway, so week 3 could be potentially a game where AJ Brown gets on track, but not really feeling good about the Eagles' new offensive coordinator. Moving on, I want to add one more to throw in, and it's that I think the Texans will bounce back this week on offense. I mean, I did think they would yesterday. It didn't
Me
happen.
too.
But for this time, they're playing the Jags. Jags defense, exploitable matchup. But also, I think the Texans offense missed Christian Kirk because Christian Kirk gives them just another reliable target underneath to complement Nico Collins quite well. And given the Texans pass protection issues, having someone like Kirk can really, help them out. I think Stroud gets on track here and they win on the road, the Texans against the Jags. Now, if you're listening to this, you might be saying like, yeah, but they just drafted Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. Well, I mean, as much as you and I both want to see those rookies on the field, for whatever reason, they haven't been. So the coaching staff, the offensive coordinator doesn't maybe trust them fully yet, these rookies. So they were playing the likes of like Justin Watson and
Xavier
Xavier Hutchinson.
Hutchinson. Yeah.
But now Kirk will be there, and he will be on the field. So I think it's going to help the offense quite a bit, and I believe the Texans will win that game outright, and Stroud will have his best game of the season.
Yeah. I've been a huge Christian Kirk fader pretty much forever. But that doesn't, like, you're totally right there, because I think this is a team that runs a lot of 11 personnel, a lot more than they ever had before under new offensive coordinator Nick Caley. And so I think having Kirk there, is another body to fill one of those 3 spots that's on the field for a long time. And it's a lot less pressure on those young guys because they can work in as the third option and have Christian Kirk be that other reliable underneath guy, because Higgins is not really going to be your underneath target, right? He's a big body. He can get yards after the catch. He can go downfield. He does have a lot of versatility, but that's not him. I think Noel could fill what we're talking about as a Christian Kirk role because he's really good from the slot, really good on the short targets. But I just think he needs a little bit more progress as far as being trustworthy in an offense too. So yeah, that's a really, really well put. And I think he does a lot of things and maybe eases some of the pressure on those young guys, because we did see a little Jaden Higgins flash yesterday in the Monday nighter. Got me a little bit hot and bothered, I will be honest, but just a glimpse of what I think he will do in the future. But he's more of a wait and see guy, and anything that you get this year is kind of a cherry on top. So maybe more for those dynasty gamers. Okay, Frank, is it time? Is it
Yeah,
time?
for
All
it.
right. Because I got to give a big socket to the haters here. And now, if anybody here listens to my Dynasty show as well, they would have heard I had a bit of a rant this week, but I felt like it needed to be in both places to make sure I hit the maximum listenership. Because Rome Odunze is officially the Chicago Bears wide receiver 1, Frank. So I got to say a big sucket to the haters who said that he might not even be third on this target tree. Big sucket to the haters who said he couldn't do more than play X wide receiver. He's playing 35% slot right now, Frank. Just just a big sucket to all the Romo Dunze haters. I've been called on the other show because I like him so much. I've been told that I'm like his mother, so they kind of call me Mrs. Odunze over there. And I've been saying Mama knows Frank because he's top 12 in most major wide receiver receiving categories. Like I said, 35% slot, 65% on the outside. He's the only Bears pass catcher who has more than 1.6 yards per route run. And I think he's got like 2.16. He's almost got 4 yards after the catch per reception. So looking at all that, 38% of the team's receiving yards through 2 weeks, Frank, Obviously, it's only through 2 weeks, but sometimes you have to risk it for the biscuit to be able to hit on these breakouts. And I completely understand there was a lot of unknown with Rome, and I was risking it for the biscuit. And luckily, it just worked out for me. But sometimes you got to do that. And this was a very, very confident risk that I felt like I was taking. And it's paying off for me so far. So I am reaping the rewards. I don't know if you recall, but I think I had him as like our wide receiver 18 in my preseason rankings for 2025, flip-flopping him with DJ Moore as the lead target. And that's what's taking place. Like nothing much else is looking very good for the Bears, to be honest with you, Frank, so far. But Rome Odunze is. And we're buzzing over here, brother.
Yeah, so I was fading Roma Odunze. I would take him here and there in best ball just because he's got that. He could be a deep threat. He can give you spike weeks. I was betting on a DJ Moore bounce back, and then like you said, there was new pass catchers like Luther Burden and Colston Loveland there, and Odunze didn't do that great as a rookie, but so far, like we're getting closer. I have to give in because Odunze looks amazing. The usage is great. Like you said, Odunze being used in the slot. We've already seen a huge spike week out of Odunze. And up next, in a potential shootout with the game total at 50 plus points against the Cowboys, we just saw the Cowboys give up like 450 yards through the air to Russell Wilson.
Russ.
So Odunze could have another spike week. I'm really like, this is it. Like, if DJ Moore doesn't earn more targets and get going, I'm gonna give in, and Odunze will have to. The rest of the season, I lost that one, but
I'll be here waiting, Frank. I'll be here waiting for you.
For this week, I'll definitely be ranking Odunze ahead of Moore because you got to just go with what you see right now. And a lot of times, like if you just cling on to your prior thoughts, that's how you miss the boat, and that's how you make a poor decision. Right now, Odunze should be ranked higher than Moore, but we'll have to see. But yeah, great start for your call, and this is one that I'm looking totally wrong on.
That's okay. My suck it to the haters was not directed at you, Frank, by the way.
I was talking of fading Odunze quite often on Twitter, but I guess we could do it like I could say a suck it to the haters one.
Do it. Give them a suck it, Frank. It's always nice to take these.
Like my favorite target this year was JSN. I'm not gonna say him because it wasn't like everyone was hating on JSN.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pick a player that I liked that everyone hated on. And every article you read, it like James Cook was considered a fade. Touchdown regression. He's not gonna rush for that many. And all offseason I was saying, yeah, but that touchdown regression is baked into James Cook's ADP. He was going like 4th round sometimes. This is still an elite running game. This is still a team that's going to be playing with the lead often, especially with their soft schedule. I mean, look at the 2 games James Cook has had already. 3 touchdowns. Look who they play this week. They're home to the Dolphins. Another smash matchup. So sometimes we can't just be like, oh, the touchdown regression. Let me take a receiver. No, like, let me take a rookie early, like Omarion Hampton. James Cook is lapping Hampton. Way more fantasy points. And it's really unlikely that you got to think Cook can continue it because the offense is elite. And so that's my takeaway, that sometimes the community overthinks things. And it's just about a player who's produced before and they're in a great offense. And that's what Cook is. And after the Bills re-signed Cook, that should have been giving you that vote of confidence that it's not like, Ray Davis is going to take over. Ray Davis is a strictly, if Cook gets injured, that could be a smash type of hold. But yeah, James Cook looking great so far.
Suck it, haters. No, you were spot on with that, Frank. I was guilty as charged as one of those faders of James Cook. I've come back around, though. He's my running back 3 on the week with that offense running through him and Josh Allen. It's beautiful. Okay, Frank, that does it. That's what I got for our post-week 2 takeaways. I think it was a nice, tidy little episode for the listeners. Like I said, the whole kit and caboodle of our content can be found here and on the Substack. So we got our weekly rankings dropping later this week. I'm going to have a matchups article that goes through some key matchup data that I take from Fantasy Points data. Frank's going to be dropping some bets over there. We got the Sunday morning Q&A where we're talking to people and giving them some takes. And we had some good ones in that chat this past week, Frank. I think I told somebody to sit DJ Moore and Cortland Sutton, and both of those plays ended up working out. So get into the Q&A there. Check it out on Sunday morning, and you can chat it up with us. Otherwise, hit us up on social media. Comment on the video here. Check out our stuff at True North FFB on Instagram and Twitter. Like, get at us. We love building that community. We love seeing that people are getting eyes on our stuff. And so please do that yourselves. And so, yeah, that does it for week 2. Go check out all the content there. We're moving into week 3, and we could not be more excited. So for the Italian Dream, Frank Amaranti, I am Travis Seal. See you next week.